language, religion, then there are various customs that are shared by Malay communities. The place I want to start with all of this is a place known as the Malay world. In Southeast Asia today, there's of course a place called Malaysia, a country right in the middle of the region, and the main ethnic group in that country is, surprise, surprise, the Malays. That said, Malaysia is not the only place where you have Malay peoples living. There are other places where you find Malay communities, like in Brunei and in southern Thailand. Historically, though, there were Malay there were Malay peoples in other areas as well, such as along the eastern coast of Sumatra. So if you're going to look at a map, historically, you'd find Malay peoples living along the coast of the Malay Peninsula, both coasts of the Malay Peninsula stretching all the way up to what is today southern Thailand, and all the way down to the bottom of the peninsula where Singapore is, along the eastern coast of Sumatra. And then finally, there were Malay communities on the western coast of the island of Borneo, and other islands in the region as well. So you can see it all on the map. Map's over here. Tricked you. You can see it on the map here. This area that's connecting all of these places, that is the area that historians refer to as the Malay world, an important world of shared communities and interactions. So you have Malays obviously living in the Malay world, but what makes a Malay a Malay? Language is obviously one key element. There is a language called Malay that is an Austronesian language, one of those languages that's part of that huge language family of languages that stretches all the way from Madagascar to Rapa Nui. Malay is a rather late addition to that language family. I don't know when we can trace its origins, certainly over, let's say 1,500 years. But that would still just make it a linguistic baby in the big picture of things. But it is an Austronesian language, and we find evidence of its use, going back over 1,000 years. So the Malay language is one element that's really important for Malayness or identity. Another key element is Islam. But if we were to go back in time, say over 1,000 years, we'd find the early Malay communities following certain Indic practices that we'd probably define as something like Hindu-Buddhist or something like that. But gradually over time, the various Malay-speaking peoples converted to Islam, and today Islam is considered a central aspect of what it means to be Malay. So you've got language, religion, then there are various customs that are shared by Malay communities. Adat is a term for custom, and there are various kind of customs that are shared. None of those are things that you're born with. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? It's all stuff that you can learn. And indeed, this is something that has happened historically. People who were not born in a Malay community have learned Malay, have converted to Islam, have learned to follow the shared customs of a certain Malay community, and have become Malay. And indeed, there's a term for this, masuk Melayu, to enter Malayness or Malaydom, whatever you want to think of it. And it's a process that has happened historically and that is happening today as well, as people who are in contact with Malay communities adopt their language, convert to Islam, follow cultural practices, and become essentially Malay.